Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Red Tinted Glasses podcast, the second episode of the week. And it's a change from league action this weekend as the Dons are back in cup action for the first time this season. And it's a trip to Cappielow. I'm sure that haunts a few of the older members of our support. Although my recollection of the last time we travelled to Greenock was the League Cup under Craig Brown, where the home side did take us to extra time, but the Dons eventually prevailed in that one. Delighted on this episode to be joined by Robert McCahill from a Greenock perspective. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glen. Nice to be here. Hopefully, I can kind of fill you in a wee bit and where Morton are at so far this season.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously a nice thing to have and give us a bit of a opposition perspective. And I guess probably the first thing to ask, what's the confidence or what was the feeling when the draw was announced that you were going to be hosting Aberdeen?
Um, I, I think, I think that of all the Premiership teams that were left at home, it was probably the draw that we wanted.
Mhm.
If we weren't getting Ayr or Partick, just because of the poor start that Aberdeen have made, kind of in the league and obviously the league form towards the end of last season. That's not me saying that I think we are going to beat Aberdeen by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a chance. There's a chance if we play at our best and Aberdeen don't turn up, then there's a chance. And I think playing a Premiership team for a kind of regularly mid-table Championship team, that's as much as you can ask.
Yeah, and I think obviously the fact that maybe I was going to say some surprise, but let's be honest, we always knew two teams that were going to be picked for TV. Um, the game's not on TV, Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. I think there will be a good crowd at Cappielow this weekend. And as you said, there's a chance, and I've made some great pals during my Tartan Army time with guys from Greenock. And I messaged one of my pals, James Binney, the other night, and he said, I'm up for it. I fancy our chances. And I think the fact that we've started this season as poorly as we have, there will be a level of optimism amongst the Greenock Morton support.
No, definitely. And we were a wee bit shaky in our pre-season friendlies, but there were a lot of trialists. Dougie was late starting the assembly squad because of behind the scenes stuff for the sponsors and the board and stuff. But the League Cup and the league has been pretty strong, and we've not conceded a goal at Cappielow yet. 3 games, 3 clean sheets. And Aberdeen, they're missing a striker. I
Yeah.
watched the game on Sunday, and Aberdeen don't score many. So that combined with us being quite tight at the back, I mean, all we're looking to do is nick one. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I don't think it'll be a back to the wall performance. Dougie Imrie has kind of changed the way we play over kind of last season and into this season. A lot more possession based. Plays with wingers. He started playing two up front. Now we've signed Eamon Brophy as well.
Hmm.
So I think we'll have a wee go. But I don't know if he'll play two strikers on Saturday. He'll maybe play with Adeloy up front and keep Brophy on the bench and bring him on if it's looking like we need a goal.
Yeah, and was it last season you played Hearts as well in one of the cup competitions? And
Yeah,
for
so
those that have watched that game, that was you pushed Hearts all the way.
we beat Motherwell the previous round at Cappielow,
Hmm.
and then we played Hearts. I think that was that the last 16 of the Scottish Cup, maybe the last 8. I can't remember precisely,
Hmm.
but it was the 87th minute. They
Yeah.
scored their winner. Um, so we've done well recently against Premiership teams. Even when we played Rangers a couple of years ago at Ibrox, we took the lead. We were leading at half time.
Hmm.
Um, and even although Motherwell beat us 3-0 in the group stage,
Yeah.
could have been very different. A very strange non-penalty decision
Hmm.
just before half time, and then they had 2 late goals that kind of polished the scoreline.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to speak about that game as well, but I think obviously this being a home game for Morton, there is a lot of probably pressure on Aberdeen, and there's nothing to lose from a Morton point of view going into this game as well. But taking it back, you mentioned kind of some of the off the field issues with the board and Dougie Imrie. I know Dougie himself's got a lot of personal issues that he's dealing with as well. What was the expectation level amongst the Morton support coming into this season?
I think if you'd asked us in June, we'd have been happy to stay in the Championship.
Yeah.
But once the sponsorship deal was sorted out, the fans group who own the club had a new interim board put in place, and that seemed to steady the ship. We've got a bigger squad than we've had probably in a number of years. I think we've already got 23 first-team players, and Dougie's still got a budget, plus a budget for January if we need it, which we've never had. At this stage of the season, 3-4 years ago, we were sitting with three players on the bench. That's how tight things have been. He's went out and he's signed experience, and a lot of really good-looking young players from England.
Mm-hmm.
So I think realistically, amongst the Morton fans that I know, when I travel home and away, we're hoping for a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think, we've seen how competitive the Championship is over the last few years, how exciting a league it is. So this game will be a challenge from an Aberdeen point of view. And I touched on in the notes that I've got the attacking former Premiership experience that Morton now have in their ranks. You've already mentioned Eamon Brophy, Michael O'Halloran's in the ranks, Ali Crawford's in the ranks as well now. A mixture of youth and experience tends to pay off, and you've got a manager who's had Premiership experience, but you've got a manager who, during his time in the Premiership, was known for his physicality, putting himself about. So, is it wrong of me to expect that from this Morton team at the weekend?
I think when Dougie first took over, we were certainly a team in his image. I think the first season he took over, we had the most bookings in the Championship. There's still an element. Where he expects his players to work hard. He expects them to track back. He expects them to press. He expects them to be physical, but he also expects them to express themselves. And as you said, players like Brophy, O'Halloran, Ali Crawford, they're skillful guys. Like Ali Crawford, the last 6 months of last season and the way he started this season reminds me of Ali Crawford at Hamilton. He never reminded me of that Ali Crawford when he was with St Johnstone.
Yeah.
He looks like a man who's happy to be playing football again. So I expect us to be physical, but not overly so. That's not the only kind of tool he's got in the toolbox.
Yeah, we'll maybe come on to some of the tools that he might look to utilise a little bit. If we look back at the League Cup group stage campaign for yourselves, a 4-2 win away at Peterhead, you're probably thankful, given you follow Morton home and away. It's not another long trip back up to the northeast, and it's Aberdeen doing the travelling, or would you have wanted a trip to Tawdry?
Well, so Balmoor's one of the few that I've not ticked off, and it happened to be on the same day that I'd booked Oasis tickets, so I didn't even get to the game.
Oh, but as you've already pointed, without conceding at Cappielow this season, 2-3-0 wins at home to Stenhousemuir and Clyde, and then a similar scoreline away to Motherwell, as you've already pointed out. But I wanted to speak about the Motherwell game specifically because two late goals by Masaniswe, as you've already kind of said, late goals padding out the scoreline. 0-0 at half time. I think it was about the 53rd minute. Motherwell opened the scoring. So, how much do you think that performance from this season, but also your recent home form and performances in cup competitions against Premiership experiences, will boost the confidence going into Saturday?
I think to a certain extent, there's certainly a feeling amongst the Morton fan base that Dougie was maybe a wee bit too cautious against Motherwell.
Okay.
and set out to absorb pressure and kind of play on the counter attack and not impose our game on them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether he'll do that on Saturday. Like getting to half time at 0-0, we probably thought we're in with a shout here. Not getting the penalty just before half time kind of seemed to suck a wee bit of the heart out the team though.
Mm.
And as you say, the 2 late goals, it's like Premiership fitness against Championship fitness.
Yeah.
I think on Saturday, the first goal will be very, very important. If we score first, it could be a very tough afternoon for Aberdeen. If Aberdeen score first, we might shrink into ourselves a wee bit.
And that was going to be kind of the next question is, and I guess we spoke about this when I had Colin Watt on from a Celtic State of Mind around the Celtic game, is the importance of the first goal and potentially even how early that first goal comes. If Aberdeen score early, do the heads go down in the Morton ranks and the support as well, as I said, which I don't know, maybe you know how well are tickets selling from a Morton point of view for this game?
So I haven't actually spoken to anybody at the club. One of my pals was the director of football, and I usually kind of get a wee insight for him, but I've not spoken to anybody. But I'd imagine they will sell well. I think our capacity now, although the stadium capacity says 11,000, I think it's realistically 7.5 by the time they put
Mm-hmm.
in segregation and stuff now.
Yeah.
And we certainly sold that many tickets for Motherwell and for Hearts last year. So I'd imagine with it being a Saturday afternoon, because
Mm-hmm.
both of those were midweek, that we should approach that no bother, I would think.
Yeah, and obviously from an Aberdeen point of view as well, we've got the wee Dublin end behind the goal and also a section of the grandstand as well. So a opportunity for a healthy Aberdeen support to travel down. I know tickets, we're recording this on Monday night, went on sale, on general sale, which tends to be unheard of for Aberdeen away games to reach that kind of area in terms of our loyalty points. But you mentioned there, Dougie Imrie maybe kind of changing tact for the Motherwell game. Do you think Jimmy Tillene's style and how he likes to approach games with a high press might alter Dougie Imrie's thinking for this game?
I mean, I think in that respect, they're probably very similar.
Okay.
Emery likes his players to press. Like I was at the Thistle game on Saturday, and honestly, the amount of ground that Ali Crawford covered, he was just like a terrier. And
Yeah.
kind of, I until he came to Morton, I had always thought Ali is more a luxury player. But
Mm.
the work that he puts in that midfield is unbelievable. And Dougie expects that for every
Yeah.
single player. Although, as I said, he's trying to play a wee bit more possession and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
we're probably very evenly matched with most of the teams in the Championship. You see it on any given day, any team can beat any team,
Yeah.
which is why it's so competitive. And I don't know how our side will cope with a high press from what are effectively better footballers.
Mm-hmm.
Midfield is probably our problem area. There were long periods of the game on Saturday where without cutting us open, Thistle controlled the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dougie kind of played a diamond in Saturday. There's no really an enforcer in the
Yeah.
team.
Do you think
Yeah,
it'll
it's mere.
suit? Do you think it would suit Morton then, looking at how Aberdeen's midfield two have lined up this season, Shinnie and Nielsen come in for a lot of criticism off the back of Sunday's performance. Could Graham maybe potentially drop back to left back on Saturday? Would a more energetic midfield duo, with the greatest of respects to Graham and Sievert Nielsen, hurt Morton more than if it was that Shinnie Nielsen combo?
I think so. I think having a bit of pace in the midfield could potentially exploit us. And I don't, as you say, I don't think those two players have that in abundance. Because we've got a wee bit of pace in midfield now. The young boy Keane Taylor, who signed from Preston, and Owen Moffat, if he plays Owen Moffat. So I mean, I think if I was the Aberdeen manager, I would probably be looking to replace at least one of them, but I'm not the Aberdeen manager.
Yeah. Well, there's thousands of us that want to be the Aberdeen manager, and I'm sure I'll be telling Jimmy what we want him to do. Again, Morton's point of view going into this weekend, realistic hopes and expectations from yourself. I'm not saying you're speaking for the entire Morton support, but I guess if you could give us a flavour of what that might be.
I mean, realistically, it's a free hit for us. If Aberdeen turn up at Cappielow and win 3-0, nobody's going to bat an eyelid. We certainly, or the fans that I spoke to on Saturday, and the fans that I've interacted with over the last couple of days, think we've got a chance. But as I said, like, we will need to take the lead. I think if we go one down, we're not going to go and score two after that. So, aye, there's a chance. But Aberdeen are still heavy favourites, even though they're not playing to their
I
capabilities.
suppose, though, you say you don't need to go and score two. So this tie can go to extra time and penalties as well. So there's not the necessity to go and score two unless you don't want to drag the game out. But the longer the game goes on at 1-0 for either side, the more that comes in. Give us a flavour, though, of the start to the league campaign. Draws against Dunfermline and Partick Thistle, and with the greatest of respect, maybe a few eyebrows raised at that draw against Partick. I know that Partick will have that reputation of folk expecting them to be up there, but it feels from an outsider looking in a very solid start to the season and giving yourselves a platform to build on.
I think it is. Traditionally, we don't start well. I think last season we had 8 points by mid-November. We traditionally don't start well. Then we go on a 15 or 16 game unbeaten run that pulls us up the table.
And then narrowing it out.
But we should have won on Saturday. We should have won. I don't know if there are videos on Twitter of Partick's penalty, and it was one of the worst decisions I have ever seen. And I go to a lot of football. I've seen some bad decisions. And it was their only shot on target for the entire game was that penalty. Like we should have won on Saturday. I think the week before against Dunfermline, before the season started, I tipped Dunfermline for the playoffs. I think Dunfermline will be there or thereabouts this season. Neil Lennon's he'll bring a bit of steel to that squad, and he's added to it really well. So a point against them was probably a good result. They had the better chances. Our young goalkeeper, the young 20-year-old lad, we've signed on loan from Wolves. Had 3 tremendous saves. So all in all, 2 draws. I'm probably happy with that against a team I think will be in a mix, and against Thistle away. Yeah, I'm probably it probably is quite solid.
Yeah. Again, then you maybe mentioned a few of the players already, but who are the main threats from a Morton perspective that you'll be hoping can hurt that Aberdeen backline this weekend?
I think Ali Crawford, like pretty much everything comes through him. Like his dead ball skills are tremendous. Every corner is right on someone's head. He scores goals for kind of 25, 30 yards out for free kicks. And his goal on Saturday, he was the late arriving kind of attacking midfielder. He kind of sweep it in. Tommy Adeloy, if he's in the mood, is a great striker. Unfortunately, he's not in the mood as often as he's not in the mood. There are times where he looks absolutely unplayable, but then he takes a huff or he falls out with a referee or whatever, and he just doesn't look interested. I think Eamon Brophy's a really interesting signing. at our level. It's only 5 years ago the boy was getting a Scotland cap. He's only 29. He's had a horrendous time with injuries. And Dougie's got a kind of track record of turning players like that around. And he also played with Dougie at Hamilton. I think Dougie only, when he signs guys from that he used to play with, it's because he likes their attitude. So as I mentioned, the boy Keane Taylor as well, who we got from Preston North End. He looks a player. He looks a player. I thought at the end of last season when we lost Aaron Lyle to Ross County, I was really disappointed. This boy looks like he can fill his boots.
And I think, it's interesting you highlight a mix of experience and youth, obviously loanees coming in that, maybe the Aberdeen scouting team don't know a lot about, and it'll be difficult to see them in terms of action from a Morton point of view. I still total agreement that signing of Eamon Brophy is a great addition to the Morton front line, and you're right to highlight his age and ability as well. We know what he can do. We've seen it hurt Aberdeen before in the past. As well, I think from an Aberdeen point of view, with Mats Knusters set to miss the game due to that injury, how do Morton then look to take advantage of Jack Milne and Alfie Dorrington at the centre back pairing? Is that an opportunity? Again, we've seen Graham Shinney struggle with playing out from the back. Does he go back to left back, or do we stick with Devlin and Jensen? So for me, the back line feels a lot of an unknown, and the pressure feels there going down to Cappielow this weekend, obviously with no points, no goals on the board as well. It comes back to what you said, that first goal is going to be so important on Saturday, because if Morton get it, the crowd's going to be even further up than they'll already be, and the angst from the away section will grow more than it probably already is. And I just wonder, as much as you say Dougie Imrie likes to maybe take the game to the opposition, will there be an element of looking to frustrate Aberdeen in this and kind of play on, I guess I can get to say this, levels of negativity that are rippling through the Aberdeen support currently?
I want to see us playing attacking football. I think like this. I think it says to you, this is the best squad I've seen us assemble for a number of years, and there are football players in it. And I'd like to see us utilise that and play football. If sitting back and absorbing pressure and scoring one goal with one shot on target was what it took for us to get through,
You're not going to complain.
That's it. I would be calling for Dougie to be sanctified, but at the same time, I like to be entertained when I go to the football.
I mean, we all do. You also mentioned Ali Crawford's set piece delivery. We've seen Aberdeen struggle for a while now at defending set pieces, and certainly conceding from set pieces. Is that going to be a key target area, I guess, for Morton this weekend in terms of exploiting Aberdeen?
I'd imagine it will be. Jackson Longridge, good in the air, has already scored a couple of goals. And the other young lad that we signed who plays beside him, Chris Moore, who was the Leeds Premiership B captain. How he's ended up at Cappielow, I will never know. But he is a big unity, a boy. I think if in 3 or 4 years, if he can get his kind of rough edges polished off, there's a proper player in there. So I think corners and free kicks round about the box, both with Ali's kind of shooting prowess and with his delivery, will be dangerous for Aberdeen.
Yeah, certainly something to keep an eye on for those of us like myself travelling down to the game this weekend. Is there any concern or weaknesses that you've identified in your time watching Morton that you're worried about going into this weekend that Aberdeen have the potential to exploit? Not just, of course, as you've said, with the greatest respect, being Premiership football players, they should be better players.
I think I already mentioned like the midfield. We are a bit lightweight in midfield, and I think Dougie's kind of sacrificed the brawn for a bit of skill.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll change it. I don't. If Grant Gillespie's fit, he's been out injured. He'll maybe bring Gillespie in to kind of shore up the midfield a wee bit, beside Cameron Blues. But that's probably if Aberdeen can win the midfield battle and pin us back, that's
Yeah.
probably the best chance of success, I would think.
Yeah, and I do think it is going to be really an interesting one to see what he goes with in our midfield, and also depending if Lazatic is signed between now and the weekend and gets all the necessary clearance, what Aberdeen do in terms of striking options. Obviously, Kusini Yengi's start to his Aberdeen career hasn't set the header on fire. Could we see a change up there? We've seen the pace and what they can offer in terms of Keskinen and Milanovic so far. I've been impressed by Adil Oshish as well. So some of the technical ability that this team can possess, can we look to take advantage of that and utilize that against yourselves this weekend? And I really want to see us take the game to Morton in the early stages, get an early goal, and kill any nerves that feel are circulating around this tie. And again, it feels like this is going to be a game where certainly, if not the home fans are expecting, but the media are probably hoping, let alone expecting, a potential upset.
I think there's always one tie every round that the media will kind of focus in on and be, oh, this could be the one. And I genuinely I can't remember the last time there was only like 5 league positions between Morton and Aberdeen, which there
Mm.
effectively is.
Yeah, yeah.
So it probably does have that feel to
Hmm.
it. But if Aberdeen can kind of score in the first 15, 20 minutes, I'm sure that'll settle the nerves.
Hmm.
If they don't, as you say, if that Aberdeen support starts turning and starts getting on Jimmy Tilleen's back,
Yeah.
um, then who knows? Who knows?
And look, we've seen it. Anything can happen in football. Who knows? I'm hoping it's going to be a comfortable afternoon. But if I've learned anything under Jimmy Tilleen's tenure, nothing feels comfortable until the full time whistle blows. Robert, really enjoyed the chat and getting the Morton perspective. As I said, I've got a lot of good pals down that way from Scotland days. So we'll maybe catch up with you for a drink before the game at the weekend. But thank you for coming on and wish you all the best for the season as well, just apart from Saturday.
No worries. And likewise, I win as many games as you need to, as long as you don't win a Saturday.
No, Robert, absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody else that has tuned in to this video or listened along on audio. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, follow for more content coming up next week. Of course, we'll be reviewing this game in full and also previewing our Europa League playoff against whatever opponents that may be. So until then, we will see you next time.